Now that the social engineer has fixed the computer, and of course for many victims of a scam like this, they will believe that their machine has genuinely been fixed, it's time for them to monetize the scam. Let's have a quick look at how they attempt to have me pay them, and then we'll wrap up by seeing how the social engineer responds when the tables are finally turned on them and they realise that they're the ones who've been socially engineered.
So have you got the form on your computer screen?
Yeah, I see a form.
So just hold on for a moment. Now start filling up the form, okay?
Oh, how long is this going to take me? Oh. All right. I complete the registration form using the pseudonym that I've used throughout the call. And now that they have my personal info, or at least they believe they have my personal info, it's time to charge me some money.
Now what do you have got on the computer screen at the moment?
Available plans, remote tech support, direct tech support.
Okay. So just leave the mouse for a while, okay? So I need to send an email to the technical department and get the fix from their end, okay?
Righto.
Just be with me for a moment. You don't have to do anything from your end, okay?
Righto, mate.
All right. Yeah, just hold on. Just hold on for 10 seconds, okay?
Okay. I'm getting hungry though.
Yes. No, just hold on, okay? So right now, sir, you are going to get the form in your computer screen, okay?
Yeah.
And the session will be put on hold. No one can see the form in your computer screen, okay?
Notice how even now, as the scam begins to wind up and the social engineer is convinced I'm about to give them money, they're still fabricating the story. The charade that they've created continues. Of course they can see my computer screen. They've still got remote control. In fact, they're about to use that remote control to direct me straight through to the payment form.
So I need to confirm from your end. As I told you, it's only one-time payment, okay? And for long 1 year, it's $160. So as my engineers confirmed me that in your computer you required a high compatibility software, okay, in your computer. So I need to want your preferences that as it's only one-time payment, for how long you want to activate this warranty code, okay? I want to know your preferences for how long you want to build it.
Mate,
for only 1 year?
Yeah, just 1 year. And we'll see how it goes after 1 year.
Okay, so as I told you that you can carry forward this warranty on other new computer as well, okay, if you want, okay? So I will send the form in your computer screen for 1 year, okay? So you can do one, you can figure out the plans if you want.
Yeah.
You can see the plan on your computer.
Yeah, just 1 year, mate.
Okay, just bear with me. Okay, now start filling up. Have you got the form? If you want to click the form, just start filling up the form, okay? Now, right now, the session has put on hold. No one can see this form, okay?
No one can see that, okay, right?
Yeah, only you can see this form. So start filling up the form.
Here's what the social engineer has been working towards for the entire call. This is what they want to get me to, the payment form. And of course, using the persistent remote control, which they still have access to, and full visibility of my screen, despite what they say, they believe they've now directed me all the way through to the point where I'm going to pay them $160 for the service that they've provided. Now this is really the end of their social engineering attempts. And what you need to keep in mind as you reflect back through this module is how your average consumer would fall victim to this scam. The more technically adept among us would have realized that there were many inconsistencies and warning signs very early on of a technical nature. But consider the random cold call nature of the scam. Most of the people they talk to are not going to be technically savvy. Now combine that with the social engineering tricks that we've seen so far. Everything from the air of authority being from Microsoft, the demonstration of the vulnerabilities, letting the victim browse through the errors themselves, and then finally having the social engineer create that debt by providing the license key and cleaning the solution. Put yourself in the average victim's shoes. This would be an enormously successful scam. It's very convincing in many ways. But unfortunately for them, in this case, I'm not your average consumer. Let's see how it winds up. All right, mate, I just want to check something on another. I just opened a different window. Can you see that window okay?
Sorry?
So I just opened something on another window because I just want to check something with you. Can you see that one all right?
No, I can't say nothing, okay? Right now the business is on hold.
Okay, well, can you just maybe load my screen back up again? I just need to show you something before I fill it in because I'm just not sure about something.
Okay.
Can you see my screen okay now?
No, I can't see your screen. What you're doing? Have you started filling up the form in your computer screen right now?
No, I'm stuck on something. Now, start to consider how this social engineering scam unravels. And what's really interesting here is that as adept as this scammer is, he starts to really struggle when things aren't going to script. I'm meant to be filling out the payment form. What am I doing trying to take him to a website? He's stumbling a little bit. Let me show you what I do next. You know, what am I...
Okay.
You guys are... Was this...
Sorry?
Are you from... Are you?
Yes?
You can see my screen now, can't you? Or do you want me to read it to you? You there, mate? The long silences as the penny finally drops demonstrates that yes, indeed, the social engineer, or in this case, the social engineered, can see my screen. He's now looking at an article about his company having been dropped by Microsoft due to running this scam. Let's put this back in a social engineering context for a moment. He's struggling to adapt to unexpected changes in the script. This is not the way the scam is meant to go. A more competent social engineer wouldn't be so lost for words so easily. They'd have a ready comeback. They would attempt to distract the victim and get back on track, back to payment. But in this case, he's really not sure what to do.
Yes.
Can you see my screen?
In which party you are in? Sorry?
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Okay, just hold on for a moment. I will ask the technical department to get back on once again access on the computer, okay?
Okay, let's do that.
Yes, right now I can see. Yeah.
Okay.
I can see. What is this?
What can you see?
It says Microsoft drops partner accused of false scam call like that, right?
And is that you guys?
Sorry?
Is that you guys? Are you? It's getting awful quiet there.
Yes. Sorry?
Is this you guys? Are you guys the cold call scammers? Confronted with this evidence, the social engineer is completely lost for words. Once he realizes that he himself has been socially engineered, he does ultimately become quite defensive. In fact, this video goes on for about another 10 minutes after this. So if you want to see the whole thing, go and check out my channel on YouTube. Needless to say though, he becomes very defensive and somewhat aggressive, and in fact is quite certain that he is providing a legitimate service, despite how much misdirection and outright lies have been told in order to get to this point. Now I'll leave you with one final thought related to this particular scam. I've had a number of people say to me, perhaps this is just operators following a script. All they're doing is going through the process and they themselves are not aware that they're not actually solving any legitimate problems. In case there's any doubt whatsoever as to the types of people that are making these calls, go and have a listen to some of the other ones on my YouTube channel. And I'll say this here, they would be totally inappropriate for reproduction in a course like this. They very quickly get quite abusive, quite crass, and in some cases very inappropriate when the social engineer realizes they've been had. And it's a good reminder that as basic as this scam seems, at the end of the day, social engineers like this behave pretty much as we'd expect. So that wraps up the most important parts of the cold call that I wanted to share with you here. Do go and listen to the whole thing on YouTube if you're interested. Let's go on now and wrap up the module.